right, everybody, welcome back to the Move Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Lance Armstrong, sitting next to Jeffrey Benedict, a.k.a. J.B. Hager, and to his left is Mr. George Anthony Hincapie, my other host. Today we're talking about Stage 5 from Q Alain.
Stage number 5, Saint-Dié-des-Vosges to Colmar.
Did you hear that?
No.
Saint-Dié.
Saint-Dié-des-Vosges. See, this is why we have a French guy come in and announce or pronounce these things, because Colmar, I can get that one, the finish, but the start town, I mean, we'd just be...
Listen to it.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I trust you. I trusted you that he got it right. Anyways, talking about Stage 5, won by Peter Sagan. I said, I'm done picking him. Johan picked him. I swear to God, Johan has a crystal ball. He's got to confess. Don't you? I mean,
it's like some dark magic.
It's surreal. And if he keeps getting it right, and the fact, and I'm not even going to name names, but he got a message today from somebody listening to his show. I mean, you would jump off this building if you heard who it was. And his show is climbing the ranks on iTunes. Johan, if you pass us, we quit.
Yeah,
we will quit.
I know that the show that we do after this with Johan, spending more time looking at tomorrow. It's right on the heels. It's give or take 1,000 listens.
I'd like to add a disclaimer, and I spoke to Johan about it this morning. I was not given the opportunity to choose a winner yesterday. I think we kind of.
Well, now you can choose it. Who will it be?
Well, no, I wasn't given the opportunity to choose today's winner.
We agreed. We both agreed that it was just going to be a breakaway. But before we start trash talking and talking about today's stage, which is a tough stage and one that we did in 2009, just right quick sneak peek. 2009, this stage through this area of France was so rainy and cold.
No,
I mean, it was literally the day where I was like, this was the comeback. This is the first year of the comeback. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like this. You do. I mean, why are you not on a beach, on a golf course? Like, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? Anyways, I digress.
And that this region reminds you of it, where they were today.
The Alsace region's gorgeous. I mean, you saw it today.
Yeah.
I mean, all the grapes and vineyards and cool old. Anyways, before we get into it, let's talk about a little bit of business. Two companies here, and full disclosure, as I say every day, not sure if these are endorsements or disclosures. The next two companies are both investments that we've made over at Next Ventures. By the way, if anybody's curious what the hell Next Ventures is, go to nextventures.com and you can learn about it. But first company, I talked about it the other day, is Amp Human. Amp makes and we finally actually have the tube today, but their first product is called PR Lotion. So it's a sodium bicarbonate cream that you rub on your legs 30 minutes before you ride. Buffers lactic acid, as we all know. If there's an enemy in this endurance game, it's lactic acid. That's the thing that ultimately slows you down and then ultimately stops you. But this is one of these products where I was like, Jimmy Johnson told me about it. It's the first guy to tell me about it. And I was like, what? That can't work. I was like, everybody's a skeptic. And then I tried it. The thing works.
You knew right away, like the first time.
And I'm using it in the race against George. I'm using it today on our ride. So if anybody's curious, go to amphumanperformance.com. Our code is now live. It's The Move, all one word, The Move. amphumanperformance.com. Check it out. I'm telling you, it's legit.
And you just felt less of the lactic burn.
You'll just feel it. I mean, it's and the cool thing is these guys have a neat patent where they have the exclusive rights for non-pharmaceutical transdermal absorption. So they're working on a bunch of other compounds that you will want to absorb into the muscle. So Jeff Byers and his team, super impressive. Second company, PowerDot. Talked about it a lot last year. Again, one of our investments. Before we get to this, I have two things I want to add. I believe George will be needing the PowerDot pretty soon. And he's going to need the PowerDot pretty soon, because he revealed to me the other night over dinner, maybe a few too many glasses of wine. He the truth serum came out. He's been getting up early every day and lifting. He's doing 20 minutes of core and upper body lifting every day. I'm boots up, staring at the back of my eyelids, and he's up lifting, stretching, doing core work.
Wow.
It ain't long before he needs the power dot. He's
I'm
going to
gonna
blow
need
a
it.
hammy. He's going to
I'm gonna
blow.
need it.
He's going to tweak us something.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got it right here for you. But anyways, PowerDot is a longtime supporter of the show and an amazing company. Again, game changer. When I first was told about it, I was like, eh. Then you see the product, you're like, this is truly a game changer. So if you're just looking for a little recovery, or you're slightly injured, like George is going to get, and you're on the road, like this is the most mobile E-stim unit in the world. $199 it starts at. Just the practicality, the usability. Is usability a word? Anyways, yeah, that of it is just amazing. So for our listeners, they're giving one away. Go to powerdot.com/themove, sign up to win one. And for you listeners, if you go to powerdot, and the buy code there is the move for 20% off. So powerdot.com/themove, buy code is the move. By the way, also our members get a 30% discount on the site. So let's get into it, man. Stage 5, lumpy day, beautiful weather compared to 2009.
And lumpy days suit Sagan well. And let's just start with his win and who you guys think is the patron of the day, because I think you have different answers.
Go ahead. I know who George is going to pick. So
I'm going to go with my boy Tom Skujins. I think he did an amazing ride today. I don't know what was happening with him the first couple of days. He seemed a bit off, perhaps maybe a little bit sick or saving some energy. But the first stage he was at the back the whole day, which is very unlike Tom's. But today when I woke up in the morning and saw him in the breakaway, I was really excited to see that. And then again, he went on to drop his fellow breakaway companions and looked like he had a real shot for a while. I mean, he was really hammering up the second to last climb and ran out of steam a bit on the last climb. But it's a good indication of his form right now, and I think we'll see a lot more of him in the breakaways, which, before Lance gets to his patron, I think it'd be interesting to talk about how a breakaway forms on a day like today. Mm-hmm. So on the flat days, for instance, the first day breakaway goes, it's virtually guaranteed you're not going to make it. The guys are going, and it's relatively easy on that day to make the breakaway because the chances of actually succeeding are very slim. It's more of a TV time breakaway. Today, you saw the guys up there, Wellen, Skujins. Who are the other two guys?
Whatever.
Anyway, 4 guys, very, very strong guys, breakaway specialists. And these guys are getting away when there's hundreds of attacks, and finally the string breaks, and it's just got too hard. And there's too much of an effort to go, and the real powerful breakaway specialists that can make a breakaway like today, because the chances of succeeding because of the route and the profile are much higher on a day like today. So day like today, you see guys making the breakaway, the strong breakaway specialists that really, really had to work hard to make that breakaway.
I'm dying to know, do you guys think it's harder for breakaways to stick in the Tour de France as opposed to other Grand Tours or week-long tours? It seems like the teams are stronger. They can control it more. Are there fewer that get away?
George might have a better perspective.
No, I don't. I mean, every race is difficult for the breakaway to stick.
The dynamic and the just the predictability of it is always the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what race it is. I think it's a little different at the Tour because the stage win is so much more valuable. And also, if you get teams that start to get quote unquote desperate, if they hadn't won a stage, and then they have to try to pull these breaks back. Their directors are just barking in their ear, like get to the front and try to salvage their tour. And so, before I forget, I will never pick him again to win a stage. I wouldn't to win any bike race. He's let me down too many times. But as a compromise, Peter Sagan is my patron of the day. He was the Peter Sagan of old. He was right there. He was quacking, like crazy, and which we can get into. And I'd love to talk to some of the other guys.
Perhaps define quacking.
I will, but audience. Hang on. But when he finally went, his acceleration, he immediately had a bike length.
Yeah.
That was, it wasn't a full field. According to the results, there was about 75 riders left. But man, he was that punch. Some of the obviously Viviani dropped, Caleb Ewan dropped, but far and away the fastest guy there. And so on to quacking. So quacking is just I don't even know the origin of quacking. Maybe Johan
I think it's a Belgian origin.
Is that a Belgian word, Flemish word?
I don't know if it's an actual Flemish word, but it's definitely used a lot in Belgium.
Yeah. So a quacker is a real thing, is a real person, at least in our world, right?
Yeah.
A quacker is a guy who does a lot of quacking.
No.
All right, which still, what is quacking?
And
The art of the quacking.
And there's times in the sprint, or before, if it's a classic and you're fighting for position before a critical climb, you get quacked. I said, what happened? I said, fuck, I got quacked by this quacker. He's a whole day. He was quacking everybody. But so quacking is just a dude who's George. You're better at explaining this.
I think we have
around
another T-shirt. We have seen the douches and quacking.
And zero tucks given.
Zero tucks given. We got 3 T-shirts out of this show so far.
Yeah. No, it's just if you go back and watch the last kilometer, you'll see Sagan. He's just. He can get away with it. I tell you, if that was
it's not spelt like we would think it would be spelled either.
It doesn't matter. We're not spelling it. We're saying it. If that was a first-year pro riding like that, I mean, he would be public enemy number 1.
No, let's be clear. He rode like that as a first-year pro. I was with him as a first-year pro, and he didn't give 2 shits. And I think that's a big reason why he's where he's at today.
Does that just mean you're jumping around and not holding a line?
And you're
not afraid of cutting anybody off. It doesn't matter who it is.
Taking whatever wheel you want.
You just no brakes.
Here you go on a group ride and people are so polite. They point like, can I have that wheel, please?
Yeah. They just
no,
take
it doesn't happen.
You
You just lean in, elbow in, head bunt in, whatever it takes to get that wheel. That's a quacker.
But that's part of sprinting too.
Absolutely.
You just got it.
Yeah.
If you win races, though, it's a lot more accepted. If you're doing it to get 10th place or 20th place or just get in somebody's way, then it's frowned upon in the peloton.
Speaking of the finale here, and George, you brought up a good point, because as you watch probably the last hour of the race, I mean, it was all about Team Sunweb. I mean, they were just parked on the front, controlling the race, making sure that brake came back, and then ultimately chasing down Rio Costa. But for Michael Matthews, and then all of a sudden you get to when it matters, the end, and poof, nobody.
Yeah, well, I thought that same thing initially watching it. But if you look back at the sprint, Sagan was alone as well. The only guy who had a lead out was Trentin, who ended up getting 3rd place. In my opinion, if I'm there doing all the work, Bora and Sunweb doing most of the work throughout the day, I would save 1 or 2 or 3 guys for that final kilometer, because Matthews was just left way back on his own and really had a hard time making it up and did not quack as much as Sagan did.
Because he's not a quacker.
That win.
There's a different level of quacker.
And at any time in your careers, did either of you have to dodge an umbrella in the peloton?
I've seen a lot of things. I mean, and we talk about it every year on the show. I mean, between the drunk fan with wants a photo op, stands in the middle of the road, or the stray dog. Like, who don't bring your dog to the bike race? Okay, leave the dog at home. But I mean, the fact that we're going to have to, warn people and ask people to make sure their umbrellas don't fly away. Now we're starting to see a lot of different things here.
Yeah.
I mean, watching the race, poor Tony Gallipan, who crashed yesterday, all of a sudden his umbrella just gets lift. Somehow.
Yeah, he's had a rough start of the tour,
and
no doubt.
the freaking umbrella ends up in the peloton, and he hits it. I mean, then not just a little umbrella. We're talking like one of those ones where you get out of the sun, like a big umbrella.
Yeah.
I mean, you imagine, like if it went worse for him, break a collarbone, you got to go home, and people are like, what happened?
What?
I ran into an umbrella.
Umbrella, that's a very strange occurrence. I have seen things that are just as weird or weirder. I've seen a horse run into the peloton during crosswind sections in Ghent-Wevelgem in Belgium. You're on a tiny road, and you're suffering in the gutter. All of a sudden, there's a horse right in front of you.
With a person on it, or just
just a horse running
just
randomly.
A horse.
Yeah, it's very scary.
That would scare me.
Yes.
I mean,
ever caught by a train? You see that happen every now and then.
That's happened to everybody.
Yeah.
That's always that's not good.
That's not good.
No,
not good.
That's not good. Also interesting, two bits of sort of transfer / team news is Katusha has announced that they're formally ending the sponsorship, which we touched on it the other day, and I said it the other day that that's potentially 50 people out of a job, which and a lot of these people we know. I mean, my old longtime soigneur Richard Kilpinski is at Katusha, Dirk de Mol is at Katusha. Jose Acevedo is at Katusha. So these are people that we've known and loved for a long time, and so that's a bummer for them. And so fingers crossed.
I actually wrote down a note watching the stage that it was odd to see Zakarin getting dropped. I mean, he may be sick, or it may have something to do with this, because apparently some of these guys have contracts for next year, and all of a sudden imagine having a stable job, and from one day to the next you don't know where you're going next year, and you don't have a job anymore. So
I think,
makes it a tough situation.
Comment, I can't remember if it was on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, they said that Katusha is going to double down more on cyclocross. May or may not be true, but we have been talking about the rise of cyclocross.
Yeah, and I know it must be huge in Russia.
Hey, I have a question. So you've got all these Katusha riders, for example, out of work, right?
Let's not forget Ian Boswell as well, who's a good friend of ours, is a good friend of the show as well.
How does it work? Obviously, the top tier talent gets picked off, right? So and so's available. If you need them, you're reaching out. But for a lot of the other riders, do they have agents? Do they have representation that usually starts fishing for a home for you?
Yeah, you figure of 25 riders, I mean, 10 of those guys will not have a problem getting a job. The other 15 in the bottom 5 to 10 are going to be, beg, borrow, steal.
Yeah.
But even those 10 riders that won't have a problem, their negotiating power has gone down, because if they had a contract for next year, they weren't even thinking about it. Their agent hasn't been looking around. Now all of a sudden their agent's under pressure, and he's like, or under pressure from the rider saying, I need a job, find me a job. So their value perhaps can go a bit lower because of the situation of the team pulling out so late in the year. I got a question for him too.
Oh, good.
And this is super random, but I've noticed.
Yes, I'm getting fitter.
I've noticed you are getting fitter, and I want to talk about that as well.
Yes, I'm getting fitter.
What's this new bling you got on your wrist? I've noticed. I like a lot of watches.
I'm glad
but I see
you
this
asked. No, I try to mix it up. We got a little grief from Tiger Williams the other day about a little too much bling on the show. But this watch, this is actually a very special watch. So, the late great Robin Williams was a watch head. He loved watches, and so he would oftentimes, as you remember and recall, in the 2003 Tour de France, Robin and Marcia came to the tour and gave every rider and every staff member a Rolex Submariner.
Yep.
Now, I just told you how many riders are on the team and how many staff are on the team. Do the math. For everybody, engraved. I don't know if you remember.
Of course I remember. How would I forget that?
Yeah, I know you remember. But this is another watch that he gave me, and wow. It's a German maker. By the way, the tour did not go to Germany today. We got yet another thing wrong. But it's just it's the sickest watch. It's totally see-through.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah, you see all the guts, all the engineering. But this is just another one. He'd show up and be like, "Dude, I bought you a watch." I was like,
"Wow."
For nothing. It wasn't my birthday. It wasn't Christmas, but boy, I miss that guy.
He was a lover of the sport and very generous.
Loved the sport, loved the tour, loved to ride, loved to collect bikes. He was a collector. He collected art, he collected watches, he collected toys.
I was on a group ride a couple weeks ago, and I was riding next to this guy. I go, is that one of Robin Williams' old bikes?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, how'd you know that? Because he would donate every year to your auctions, your events. And he'd go, here's a bike, whatever he brought out to ride.
It's
very generous.
Yeah, very, very generous. So we had I was at the house. We were watching the race at the house before we came over here, and I was upstairs on a nature break, and George and the crew, shout out to Inkwell from Inkwell, were down there watching the race, as well as our buddy Willie. And George said, "Hey, your friend of yours just walked in the house." I was like, trying to rack my brain, oh my God, who did I invite last night after a few margies? And then he's like, "Oh no, never mind. This guy doesn't know you." I'm like, "Wait, there's a random person in our house?"
Yes, it was super. There's always random people in Lance's house, so I didn't think anything of it. The guy said, "Hey, saw you on the bike path the other day," and I said, "Oh." I actually did remember seeing him. I'm like, "Great, how you doing?" He's like, "Hi from Minnesota." It seemed like a perfectly friendly person, and Ed, his name is Ed, and I was sitting there in the kitchen and with TC and CJ, and then he says, "So do you think I'll be able to get to meet Lance? Is he around?" And we're like, "Oh wait, you don't know Lance? You're in his house right now watching." I got a little sweaty at that moment, and I just kind of started watching the TV going, shit, Lance is going to get pissed at me for inviting this person in the house. But fortunately, CJ from Inkwell handled the situation. He ended up being a very nice guy.
Sweet
just
guy.
wanted to say hi.
Sweet guy.
Shout out to Ed for coming
good.
by and saying hi, but it's just a little strange that you're in somebody's house.
But to all you other people, listen, don't get any ideas.
There were a few other things that you guys wanted to talk about from today. One is about a lumpy day like today, the GC guys trying to conserve energy, looking at what they have to face tomorrow.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that's tomorrow, and we'll get into looking into that stage specifically here in a second. But 13,000 vertical feet of climbing in only 100 miles, 160 kilometers. I mean, that's a very hard day. That's a 5-star day, and so the GC leaders certainly had that in top of mind, and so you never saw them. I mean, they were hiding out, which they should have been.
They were hiding out, but I did see Quick Step had a bunch of guys off the back. So I would find it hard to believe if they do any controlling tomorrow. So they're just going to give Alaphilippe and Enric Mas a free card. And I think we'll see some of the true GC teams take some control tomorrow.
No, Team Ineos has to control. They have 2 co-leaders that are riding strong. They have to control the whole day. Period.
Yeah.
Fact. Yeah.
Also today they went through an area where Jan Ullirch lives and has lived, and it's I don't know if it's strange for you at all, but people talk about you guys like your brothers.
Yeah.
And it's and they love to hear updates.
Yeah. So Jan, he when we raced against Jan, and we were on Postal, and he was on Telecom, T-Mobile, etc. He lived with his wife at the time in Merdrugen, which I did a search on Google Maps. Was as a car drives is 30 minutes from Colmar, from the finish today. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Jan. I love you, brother, and an update for the fans, because people know that Jan went to a patch there and know that I went over to hang, and I got an update probably a week ago, and I got a photo. I'll show you guys the picture later. Jan's doing great, totally sober. It's probably been 9 months, and so. Man, he's kicking ass. He's back on the bike. He's looking forward to to resuming life. He's got some stuff he's got to get straight. But aside from his sobriety, but he's doing good. And so we can, if you're a fan of Jan, or even if you're not, I don't know how you could not be a fan of Jan Ullirch, but his health is very good.
One of my fondest memories of Jan. I mean, this was one of the greatest cycling rivalries ever. Lance would be texting me throughout the year like, "Jan look fat. How did Jan lose so much weight? What's going on?" I mean, he was very stressed about Jan's form every year for all the years we raced together. But I mean, the competitiveness between the two was super high. And one of my fondest memories was Lance's last Tour de France that he won in 2005. We had this big party for Lance, and Jan came to the party to show him to pay his respects and say goodbye.
Spoke
and he spoke at the party, which was pretty awesome to
and
witness.
His English is not,
yeah.
It's our English isn't very good, but his is. I mean, it was I wouldn't have gone to a German party. I promise you that. But he's just a gentleman, so I'm happy for him, man. And then, look, it's a long-term commitment, so I'm pulling for him.
That's why you had to talk with him maybe about moving forward, and it's never a straight line. Forward, never straight, right?
No.
Another thing that set you both off at the same time today, it was funny to watch. So we're watching the end of the stage. Sagan finishes within 10 seconds of crossing the finish line, just mobbed by journalists and cameras in his face and microphones in his face. And both of you were like, you just had this sick kind of look in your eyes, like it just put a pit in your stomach. No, and you're like, that's the worst part of racing.
And the Tour does it better than it protects the riders better than any other race. I mean, if you go to the Giro or the Vuelta, forget it. You're just in the masses, and you just finished a hard stage, you just have won, you're completely tapped and winded, and all of a sudden it's so claustrophobic. It's like, how can we? And it just, I think it looks amateur hour. I think I don't know why the winner can't just roll into a. I mean, if you imagine some dude winning an F1 race and jumping out of his car and being bombarded by the local butcher and the GoPro in the face. Yeah, it's like, come on, really?
I'm gonna have to disagree. I mean, I didn't win as many races as these guys have, but I mean, shit, you're crossing the line in first place of a Grand Tour or a World Cup or whatever it is. You're happy. It doesn't matter who's around you. You're ecstatic. Your teammates are coming. It's chaos, but all you're thinking about is this massive accomplishment that you've achieved. And that was my view. Of course, Sagan's won a lot more races than I ever have, and perhaps it's annoying to him and it was to you, but to most the normal riders that are winning races, they don't give a shit. They're like, this is awesome. I just won a huge race.
They like the butcher.
They're not even thinking about that. They're thinking about their teammates, their family.
I think I remember Cadell Evans taking a swing at a couple of cameras because they're just right in
that
your
was
face.
when he had crashed though.
That's
and
because didn't he have his puppy with him? And he was
someone
mad that
stepped
the
on his
puppy
puppy.
got stepped on. I mean, I know you like that guy, but who brings a puppy?
This is
to
before we were
friends?
teammates. When we became teammates, we became the best of friends.
I mean, who honestly?
I did not know that.
And it was like a Chihuahua.
Clearly, you're not a dog person because I don't see them rolling around your house. But we have plenty of dogs at our house.
Yeah.
Okay, since you guys are in a smack talking mood, any training updates as you're prepping for your 50-mile mountain bike race?
I have a little update.
We did a pretty hard ride yesterday and took George on some trails that I hadn't done in a long time. They were sort of old school Aspen Snowmass.
Can I tell the story?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think I'm getting a bit nervous because anybody who knows Lance is the fitter he gets, the more annoying he gets on rides. So yesterday we started out doing this nice ride with my son. We did a nice 1.5-hour loop through the awesome trails up Airline, down Deadline, into Snowmass. I met my family there. They were having lunch. I had a handful of tater tots, a half of my son's burger. Lance is like, I'm going to go get a gel. I go, what? Wait, what? We're going to do another hour.
I was going to get chews.
He goes to get another chew. I'm having a handful of tater tots, half a burger. And he rolls up. We're going to do one more hour and then meet the family when they're done with lunch. So what happens? We leave the lunch spot after I have my handful of tater tots and half a burger, and we climb 45 minutes to about 11,000 feet.
Yeah, for old
up
school.
a 10% single track trail.
Yeah.
That was super hard, and I'm about throwing up the whole way up, but he didn't even tell me we're about to climb. So this is what I'm dealing with
Right.
now.
For old school mountain bike fans, it was the old Snowmass World Cup course. So it's the trail's called Village Bound, and then we ultimately make it over to Cross Mountain. And it's hard. It's hard. But
Very hard.
I told you it's going to be a long climb. You see.
After I had eaten
What?
and all
I
that.
didn't tell you to go eat tater tots, man. You sound like
You tell me we're gonna do an
sound
hour
like you ate
loop.
hater tots.
I did, but now I'm gonna have to be more on edge on our training.
So we're
rides.
about halfway up this climb, and I actually am feeling good, and I'm feeling better than I have been feeling. And I say I think I'm getting fitter, and I hear him back there. Yeah, I think you are. just whining.
Yeah, I was whining. I wasn't. I need to get mentally prepared for a
I'm
big
starting
climb.
to see a confidence shift.
Yeah, a little bit,
Going
a little
this
bit.
direction.
Man, I got the triple shot. I got the amp human. George is going to get hurt. He's going to need the power dot.
It started out very much in
Yes, it did.
George's camp.
Yeah,
for
what
this,
is it they say in sports? They say, Mr. Momentum has changed his address.
Members, you got to tune in for this one. It's gonna be a battle.
Before we talk about tomorrow, let's do a little bit more business. The RoadID trivia contest. Does anybody just want to be given $10,000? Like if somebody handed me $10,000, I'd be like, "Holy shit, that's amazing!" So that's what's at stake here, right? So here's the trivia question, and I'll get to the $10,000 in a second. The nickname for the Tour de France. We should have Alain here for this. Le Grand Boucle. Translate to what? What does that translate to? Le Grand Boucle. I think I know, but I'm not totally sure. If you want to know, if you think you know, and you want to win $10,000, go to roadid.com/France to answer the question and score a chance to win today's prize. This isn't the $10,000. A Thule T2 Pro XT bike rack. And then over the course of 3 weeks, one lucky winner is going to get a $10,000 BMC shopping spree. I mean, I'd be going and guessing. It's multiple choice, right, George?
That's what. Yes, that's what I heard.
RoadID.com/France. All right, 2 more bits of business. The show is also brought to you by High Brew Coffee, one of my performance aids. Wait, did I just say that? They got a new bigger can, 11 ounce for this particular concoction, the triple shot cold brew for those who do, 3 times the caffeine. I told you I went to get chews yesterday.
Yeah,
I actually went over
and you put the amp on too.
pounded a couple of these, and also worldwide sponsor of the Hollow Can, which we didn't have an opportunity to use today, but we will certainly in the future. You guys check it out. Go to highbrewcoffee.com. Our buy code is, since it's 20% off, 20THEMOVE. Lastly, as I sit here and read or look at some of these bullet points with my Roca readers on. By the way, to the people at Roca, George would like a pair of readers, and one other bit of business that's just personal. Anna Hansen, my longtime better half, keeps stealing my glasses. I will see her leaving for a ride. I was like, whoa. What is on your face? She's like, I borrowed your glasses. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, I love these. I'm like, those are mine. She's like, honey, what's yours is mine. And I'm like, all right. Happy wife, happy life. Anyways, Roca, started by athletes, for athletes, in a garage in Austin, Texas. Got to love that. All kinds of award-winning technology. Outside magazines talked about it. Runner's World, Men's Health, Popular Mechanics. Bunch of Olympic gold medalists, guys on the tour wearing it. Stays on your foot. This is the thing I love. I haven't talked about this yet. They have this gecko technology. They call it Gecko Tech. So like it's a little sticky in here, so they don't slide off when you're reading. Huh. And I read shit, and I get so mad I start moving around that my readers used to fall off. Not really, but my readers ain't coming off. For our listeners, go to roca.com/themove, 20% off your first purchase. roca.com/themove. All right.
Tomorrow, a stage that everyone's been talking about since we did the preview announcement back in the fall. This is the stage that everyone's looking at.
Yeah, I mean, and this is early, man. It's only Thursday. We started Saturday. This is for these guys. This will feel early, and I think we talked about it in the October show when they announced the route. I mean, this stage is so hard that a GC contender, in our day, you just assumed you had 8 or 9 days to sort of get fit, lose an extra kilo, and then hit the mountains. And this stage is so early that they had to come in ready. I mean, we've had 5 days, right? And one of them was a team time trial. So it's, this will be one of the hardest days they'll have in this entire tour. 13,000 feet and 100 miles.
24% section on dirt in the final kilometer. That's going to be very, very intense.
I always wonder. I mean, I know I hear all that, but then when you see it, you're like, eh.
No, Christian rode it.
He did?
He rode it. He said it was very, very steep. You can see he was trying to chat on the camera and barely making it up this hill.
Newsflash. At our age and the amount that we don't train, everything's hard.
Yeah.
So you I don't know.
Well, it's going to be hard. You're going to see maximum 3 guys come to the finish tomorrow. It's not going to be a group finish by
who's going to go and who's going to go with them?
Well, there's 2 questions, right? There's 2 big questions, and the one we talked about yesterday, and it's the one everybody's asked is can Julian Alaphilippe make it through the stage and keep the yellow jersey? My opinion is he's amazing, but this is just too hard for him to hold on. And then George may have a view on that, but then the other is who's going to control the race. And as I said a second ago, I mean, Team Ineos has to control. They have to control the bike race.
And so then we see, if they control it, then we see a shootout with Bernal or Thomas of who wants to be the leader, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow might tell that story.
It's the 22-year-old Colombian.
Can I have my pick, or
I want your opinion on Alaphilippe.
Today he just looked so good on the bike, super easy. He was on his own, just riding at the front. But that said, I think I'm going to agree with you that it might be too hard of a finish for him.
It's just too hard.
Yeah,
it's too hard, and he doesn't have that. I mean, he has 2 minutes. I mean, he's got a handful of seconds. So
I'd be surprised if he keeps it. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Yeah,
but I'd be very surprised.
My pick is Egan Bernal.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. I really believe that.
Yeah. Want to hear my pick?
Yeah.
My pick is Alejandro Valverde.
That's you guys were talking about how he came in really lean.
Really lean. It's a super steep climb.
What he was talking about, like coming in ready for an early climbing stage.
Super steep climb. If he makes it there with Bernal and those guys, nobody can touch him in a final sprint like that. So I got my money on him.
There you go.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. If we get to the point where people start calling Johan and essentially cheating, say, Johan, what does the crystal ball say? Then I'm going to be upset. But
by the way, that's a reminder that there is another show following this. It's audio only. It's in where you get your podcast. It's the same feed, The Move. I'll sit down with Johan after this, and he takes a good close look at what he expects to go down tomorrow.
By the way, he keeps wanting us to start earlier and earlier. I'm like, why? What are you going to do?
He wants to go for an evening bike ride.
He's going to go for an evening bike ride. Like, that's so weird.
He has all day.
Yeah, why wouldn't you get up and ride?
I'm in support of riding earlier.
Yeah, okay. But, George, I'm just looking at Planche de Belfi, so it's with your Valverde prediction, I mean, it's only 7K. I mean, that's you might be right there. I mean, that's short enough that he can hang, and he's riding well.
He's getting out the
7K,
glasses.
but don't forget about like you said, 13,000 feet of vertical. So
What, you changing your pick?
no, I'm just saying. Yes, the finish is only 7 kilometers long, but we're talking about all the stuff before that. They're not going to exactly arrive there fresh, like they have in years past. When the year that is it Froome won or Richie Porte, where Goodell was second, we basically arrived with a full group at the bottom. So the dynamics of the finish are totally different.
Yeah.
Whereas tomorrow, I mean, there's a ton of climbs right beforehand. Nobody's arriving at that climb fresh. Nobody's arriving with the full team. So there's going to be way more tactics going into the stage, and a lot more effort has been used coming into that final climb as well.
Well, Team Ineos is going to arrive with almost a full team.
Yeah, but
You're going to have
wild.
Wild Poles and Kwiatkowski
Yeah.
and obviously Bernal and Thomas. And, one thing that we talked about the other day, I like this addition, this time bonus on one of the intermediate mountains. So there's, with 19K to go, that the second to last climb, there's a time bonus.
Yeah.
I love that addition. I think that potentially animates the race. I like it.
I might want your thoughts on Movistar, because if you didn't hear Johan on that show, he said that's a very disjointed team, but they have three very, very good climbers who could, be more concerned with their own efforts, because they're going to different teams in the next season. So there's several riders there who are going to be looking out for number one.
Well, Landa's going to Bahrain. They'll have a full team.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting
tomorrow.
It would be in their best interest to arrive at the climb with the breakaway within reach, because they have very good chance of winning the stage.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm going with Bernal.
All right.
And he'll be in yellow on top of that.
Couple of questions. Hello from Germany to the We Do team. I have a question about hotel logistics at the tour. As far as I remember, the hotels are provided by the tour organization.
Correct.
And teams must use them.
Correct.
My question is now, how does it work with all the staff? We focus so much on the riders, but what about the team staff? Are they in the same hotel, or can you host them somewhere else? Is there a limit of participants you can bring as support for the tour? And
all of the above is true.
Yep.
Yeah. They dictate the hotels. They allot X amount of rooms, and so the teams have to. I mean, they can't. You can't have a sous chef, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to figure out exactly who you need. So the soigneurs, the chiropractor, the cook, the team doctor, the PR person.
Yeah, some of the staffs so the riders are 8. It's an 8-rider team, but the staffs at these races are 25-ish.
I think and this is from Christian, by the way. I think where he's asking is because of the accommodations, does everyone have a limit to what they can bring?
Usually, yeah.
Yes.
But if they bring more, the teams are responsible to figure out
just
where
on
to
your
put
own
them,
dime.
or they're sleeping in a camper nearby. But the teams, which is what's interesting about the tour, is the teams are sometimes 2 to 3 hours scattered between each other. They're all over the map. The one thing that ASO tries to do is by the end of the tour, each team has gotten the same amount of 3-star hotels, 4-star hotels.
Mm-hmm.
So even though some nights you might be in a dump, the next night you'll be in a nice hotel. But they try to make it pretty equal amongst all the teams as far as the hotel levels that they stay at.
I mean, I think most fans picture the riders in the finest hotels
not at
with
all.
the finest meals.
Hotels
There's call it 20 nights. I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 nights where you would say to yourself, man, I would come back to this hotel.
Yeah.
Every other hotel,
2
you're
or
like,
3.
if I ever see this place again, it's too soon.
So
Roach Motel.
Since I did 17 Tour de France's, after a while you get some kind of experience. I would look ahead in the hotel book, and I would call out my roommate. Like if it was a Novotel where there's like a couch bed and a big bed, I'd call out the big bed, because I'd have the foresight to look ahead 3 or 4 days to be able to call out which bed I wanted, knowing that all the Novotels and the Campaniles are all the same. So it's good to have options.
Right quick, you brought up this when they went from 9 to 8 riders. I just had a little cold sweat there.
Yeah.
Because with 9, that's an odd number, obviously, and so all these clowns had a roommate.
Yes.
And I always had my own room.
Yeah.
What would I do? I'm telling you, I ain't rooming with nobody.
Well, we're rooming in Boise this weekend, right?
No, we're not. I don't. There's one thing LA doesn't do, and that's have roommates.
If you had to have a roommate, who would it have been? George?
Hell no, he wouldn't want a roommate.
Probably Eki. Probably Ekimov. Eki was. You want somebody that doesn't snore, first of all.
Super neat.
Super neat. Yeah, I mean, yeah, got to keep it tidy, and then just don't talk. Don't get on the phone with your wife and get all lovey-dovey or get all mean. Right? We used to have a teammate. You room with this guy, and the fights he would get in with, not to be named, with his wife.
Oh,
yeah.
It was. You'd be like.
I used to pick up the phone at times with those.
Man.
And it was not pretty.
And they hang up, and you'd be like, wait a minute, you're married to that person? You wait, you actually love that person? Like that's the most dysfunctional. Anyways.
Wow.
I'm excited for tomorrow. George gets up super early. He can get up and lift.
Yeah.
I might even get up and
I'll
lift.
be up early.
I'm getting up early. You guys and gals got to get up early tomorrow. I will be up early tomorrow. It's going to be a big day. I mean, right away, Cat won. Right out of the gate. So
yeah, we're going to see a strong breakaway trying to get away tomorrow. And it's going to be lots of fireworks from the gun, like you said.
One more quick question.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Does mountain biking make you a better road cyclist in terms of bike handling skills or power, Are there any Tour de France riders that specifically incorporate mountain biking into their training throughout the year to improve their performance on the road? That's from Greg in Denver.
Yeah, like the guy who won today. This is the guy who did the Olympics mountain bike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when he was a pro road racer.
That's a great question. I never ever really used mountain biking as training as a pro.
Never.
But when I did Cape Epic the last couple of years and I rode my mountain bike, I got so efficient on the road bike, and it was one of the things where in the winter I'd go out, it was 40 degrees, I'd go do my intervals, do these 5-hour rides up and down these mountains, freeze my ass off going down. But I totally could have done a 3-hour mountain bike ride in the woods, stayed warm, and gotten just as good or arguably better training than being on the road and freezing your ass off.
I'm going to slightly disagree. I do think there's some crossover, but there's not as much as you think. And it maybe perhaps depends where you're mountain biking. So if you're in a place like where George lives and it's never that steep, right? I'm assuming.
No, it's steep. It's steeper than here.
So when the steeper it gets, the less it translates.
Yeah.
The steeper the mountain bike gets, the more you're out. Then it translates almost more to running. Now, for bike handling, absolutely. But there's a lot of difference between a mountain bike and a road bike. First of all, the Q factor on the crank is completely different. So the width of the crank on from road cranks to a mountain bike crank is totally. So that to me changes a lot of the equation. But if you're mountain biking somewhere steep where you're constantly on the tip of the saddle and essentially, if you looked at the body and in motion, it's closer to running than it is to riding.
Well, and then what I didn't mention too, you'd have a hard time with the high speeds on the flats in Pro Tour racing if you're only doing mountain biking, because you never get to where you're going 50, 60 kilometers an hour at 100 RPM, in the gutter. So it translated to me in the sense that I felt a lot better on the road bike. But again, I wasn't racing a Pro Tour race, which is completely different than me messing around with my buddies at home. I just felt better on the road bike when I trained hard on the mountain bike.
That's a good question. Really good question.
Did you ever use running as cross training in the winter? Did
a
you?
little bit.
Not really.
Little bit.
Is that an effective cross training?
A little bit.
Just maybe to keep the weight down, but I wouldn't say keep active during the winter, but not for actual racing.
You were at the gym all winter lifting, right?
Yeah.
No. But the strongest I felt on the bike was when I paid attention to my core when I was racing.
This is amazing. Guy's up doing. He's like, the dude's like, I do. So I'm like, what do?
Well, she's kind of threw me under the bus. I didn't plan on telling you that.
What do you do? He's like, I do push-ups and side planks, and he's naming off all these things. I'm like, oh my God. This is, dude, you're 40.
And then I go wake him up. That's my day. I do my little routine, and then I have to wake him up and try to get him to the studio.
Cool. Hey, if you want to still become a Season Pass member, you can catch a lot of the pre-show when we tape this live. You can view that and listen in. You'll get to see the race and the race results on the last day between these two. Happy hour Q&A and more stuff. Also in the shop, tons of new merch. Really, really beefed up the shop for everyone this year. So you can go to wedo.team for that. And also send those questions and comments. And let us know who it's specifically for. Is it for Lance, George, both of them, or Johan for the additional show?
Can I just add one thing? Because I'm sitting here looking at the overall classification. And this big question of Alaphilippe hanging on. I mean, he does have, and I should have looked at this before we talked about it, but he has 40 seconds on Bernal. It's a lot. So if you could make it, just throwing it out there. And then we get a lot of questions about Steven Kreiswick, who's 25 seconds down. So
and got 5th place last year.
Is 5th. I mean, Ken is the legit tour contender, and so just throwing it out there.
He's a legit yellow jersey candidate tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Those comments, send them themove@wedo.team.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.